Hi everyone, welcome back to the show. I'm Roxann Klepper, and this is Brick by Brick. Let's talk condos. What do you think of when someone says the word condo? Most people think of 30-story high-rises, apartment buildings, or horror stories about cash calls. We are going to dive into the nitty-gritty of the real condo world and the pros and cons of that type of living. So first of all, a condo is a form of ownership, not a style of building. Condos can be apartments, townhouses, duplexes, even standalone houses. So when you purchase into a condominium style of ownership, you own your appropriate share, which are called unit factors. This means you own your unit and a certain number of unit factors for the common spaces, whatever that percentage is. Never forget that you own a portion of that building, good, bad, or ugly. So let's start with unit factors. This is going to sound very mathy, but this is the foundation of how a condo is set up, and it's crucial information if a condo is on your wish list this Christmas. So let's say a 10-unit building, and there are 10,000 unit factors. This is a common number. Lots of condominiums will use 10,000 unit factors. The unit factors are used to divide up the ownership of the building and therefore allocate expenses. So to make this easy, you'll be allocated 1,000 unit factors to your unit. This number will now be used to calculate applicable building expenses. So I hear people say, I want to live in a condo because I'm tired of paying for the shingles and the siding. But make no mistake, just because you aren't calling the roofer when it's time doesn't mean you're not paying for it. What are the expenses? So when you're looking at condos and you see one with a higher condo fee than the rest, just keep in mind that not all are the same. The fees don't cover the same things. The buildings don't have the same amenities. So you will still have your own individual expenses, which will be your mortgage and your insurance. And yes, you still need insurance, but it's different than regular house insurance. And we'll get into why in a minute, but you must pay your own taxes as well. Every condominium is different, but some expenses that could be included in your monthly condo fees would be different utilities, building insurance, snow removal, grass cutting, window and door replacement, professional management, and reserve fund contributions. Let's dive into a whole bunch of things that I just mentioned. Insurance. Okay, you still need insurance, but since you aren't insuring the outside of the building, it's very different. So make sure you talk to your insurance agent about what that looks like. The building should have insurance on the outside of the building. A portion of your condo fees will go towards this. Utilities. Not every building pays all utilities, so make sure you're aware of what's included. Professional management. Not every condominium is professionally managed. There are some amazing management companies in town. Sunreal Property Management is one of them. But some buildings are smaller and choose to be self-managed. Legacy Estates is self-managed. Michener Manor is self-managed. Great buildings, very well-ran buildings. Professionally managed buildings will have extra expenses to pay for that service that's being provided. But you also get the experience, organization, and hands-on of that management company. Neither good nor bad, just another thing to know going into it. Okay, reserve fund. This one needs its own section. A reserve fund is like a big savings account for the condo. This is where the big ticket expenses will come from. A portion of each condo fee will go in here. How do you know? They know how much money is needed in the savings account? Well, by law, a reserve fund study must get done every 5 years. A professional is hired to come in and go through the building with a fine-tooth comb, looking at everything from sidewalks to elevators to roofing. Then a report's done. That report will be an in-depth analysis of every system and everything in that building for the next 25 years. It will say what needs to get replaced, how much it will cost with inflation, and it will give a recommendation for how much money must be allocated into the fund to pay for these items as they pop up. Then the condo board will use that info to allow for increasing condo fees to pay to keep the building in great shape. So here's one of the biggest concerns I hear from people who fear condos. They say, well, I have to pay the fees every month. Well, they're right. You do, but don't forget that those fees pay for the things you would pay for monthly in a standalone home, or things you'd have to take out of your savings for big ticket items like shingles. So let's say you're putting $100 each month into a savings account for your house for when the furnace craps out. This is essentially the same thing, except you don't have to deal with it when it happens, and the money is already there. Another concern that I'll address now while we're talking about it, condo fees. My clients will ask me, well, what happens if they go up? And it's a great question. Lots of people move into a condominium style of home to have fixed expenses. $2,000 a month all-in type of deal, but remember, those condo fees reflect expenses that the condominium has. So as time goes on, inflation, etc., those expenses go up. So too will your condo fees. I've told a few people not to scare them or sound negative about condos, as they have lots of pluses, but those fees have nowhere to go but up. Have you noticed how a head of cauliflower used to be $3 and now it's $11? Okay, there's my point. Your utility bills go up, again, same thing. The condo board can't control the cost of electricity any more than you can. So, back to the reserve fund. In a well-managed building, the reserve fund will be a healthy thing with enough money and enough projected money to pay for the boiler replacement in 7 years. In a not well-managed condo, it might be short, and that's a problem. Let's talk about another big concern, the dreaded cash call. We have all heard horror stories of condo telling owners they owe them thousands of dollars and it's due in 2 weeks. Okay, lots of those stories could be exaggerated. The only people who are unaware of these things are the people who don't read the minutes and don't take an active role in the condominium itself. Remember, you are an owner in this building. So cash calls, let's say it's apartment style building and it needs a new roof. Money is in the reserve fund for that roof, gets taken off, and they realize everything underneath is rotten and it's a huge expense. Okay, this is just an example. But all of a sudden there are $100,000 worth of expenses that have to get paid from somewhere. Sure, they could take it out of the reserve fund, but then that money will be short for what it was originally allocated for. So the management company and the board might say, okay, we're going to need to borrow some money from the bank for this, and we will have to get each owner to kick in X amount of dollars. Say it's $3,000 a person. Yes, it's a lot of money and horrible to be put on the spot, but the same thing could have happened in your home. You get a quote, they find a problem, boom, you're forking out more money for the repair. So this is a possibility in any condominium and something to be aware of. It costs money to run things, it costs money to fix things. When you decide to sell that condo, you want to sell in a well-run building or you'll never get your money back. Same with your standalone house. You won't get big money for a broken down, half-working house. And it sounds like a broken record, but you own part of that building. You have to take pride in it. So we've touched on some very important need-to-know topics, as well as some areas of concern for buyers. So how do we find out this info? Well, when you make your offer, you're going to include a buyer's condition that you want to review all the condo docs. Then the seller provides them to you. Well, how on earth do you understand something you've never read before? Stay tuned for our episode next week. We are having the incredibly knowledgeable Carissa Notland from Condolizers on the show. She's a full-time professional condo doc reader, and I give her name to anyone buying a condo because the most important thing you can do is to understand the ins and the outs of the condo. You don't want to be blindsided. Like always, you can call me or reach out if you have specific questions, and Carissa is going to get into the nitty-gritty about condo docs. See you next week.